Sean McDermott is ruining Josh Allen's career. The Tennessee Titans have fired Brian Callahan. Fred Warner out for the season. The 49ers continue to get these devastating injuries. We'll be bringing it down and much more on the Anthony Balester YouTube channel, the NFL show, starting right now. And we're back with the Anthony Balester YouTube channel. I'm your host, Anthony Balester. Make sure you're following us across all social medias at Twitter at Balester555 and Instagram and TikTok at Anthony Balester. Make sure if you're watching this video, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. The more subscribers we have, the more and the better content we can bring you guys. Also, make sure to share this video. If you're a football fan, you probably have other football fans that are family or friends. Make sure to send this video along to them. Also, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. The more make sure you like this video. The more likes we have, the more eyeballs we get on this, the better it helps with the algorithm, and the more subscribers we can have. Well, let's get into what was the biggest news off the football field, and that was the Tennessee Titans, who have decided to part ways with head coach Brian Callahan. Brian Callahan hasn't had much success. I believe he had a very bad record of like 4-19 over the last pretty much not even season and a half. And when you look at the numbers, now, they were supposed to have a better quarterback in Cam Ward, but when you look at the numbers, his numbers were the same or worse than what Will Levis have. And we know that these guys have the talent at quarterback, in particular Cam Ward. We saw what Cam Ward's been doing. But I think this is something that had to be done. We saw Cam Ward start to develop some bad habits, and you don't want that as a quarterback or for your franchise. He's the future. We know he's got the talent. So you want to get a coach that's going to help him flourish. And if you continue to ride it out with Brian Callahan, yeah, you don't want to fire a coach before, he finishes the second season. But if this is going to continue to spiral, you don't want to have another coach come in and have a Cam Ward that has absolutely no confidence, and those bad habits have developed into something that you can't change or undo. So this is something that had to be done. Also, Brian Callahan is known for offensive line play. That's what he specializes in. And their offensive line play outside of maybe Skoronski has been very poor. They haven't been able to get much done. And you have an offense now in back-to-back years that can't really get much done. And you've had multiple different quarterbacks, and you're getting the same results. It seemed like Brian Callahan has started to lose the locker room. It seems like the Tennessee Titans, though, aren't a great organization. They have fired coaches before. They're a team that goes through a lot of turnover with whether it's head coach or GMs. I thought that they made the mistake multiple years ago by firing Mike Vrabel. Now, ironically, they got rid of Brian Callahan, I think, because they knew Mike Vrabel was about to come in and destroy their team with the New England Patriots, and then you probably would have fired Brian Callahan to begin with. So I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to get a head start on their head coaching search for next year. They're going to probably want to get another offensive guy who can coach up Cam Ward. Defensively, the Titans haven't been that bad. Now, Brian Callahan's supposed to be an offensive guy, but their defense hasn't been that bad. Their corners haven't played too bad. Their defensive line's been, one of the best, especially the defensive tackle position, led by Jeffrey Simmons. So that position's been really well. Cedric Gray has developed into one of the top tackling inside linebackers. So they have some good things that you can put your hat on for the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, they haven't been anything. They've been one of the worst in the league. Their running game hasn't been able to get going. Now, Cam Ward doesn't have much to work with. You got Tony Pollard, who started off the season well, but he's starting to get a little older. He's not the same running back that he once was. He's not a top 10 running back in this league anymore. We also got Tajay Spears, who just came back from injury. We said their offensive line is one of the worst in football, and they probably got one of the top 2 worst receiving corps. Kevin Ridley's still a talented guy, but he's your number 1 guy. I think he's better suited as a number 2, and they don't really have any much thing else. Tyler Lockett's probably about a year or 2 away from retirement, and you got some rookies like Alomar and Christian Dike, who they've been relying on, but at the end of the day, they're rookies. They still need a true number 1 receiver and maybe a couple other receivers to really round out this receiver room. So Cam Ward, turn the ball over, making mistakes. He's doing it because he has the forced throws. He's a rookie quarterback, and I believe Brian Callahan was ruining his confidence. So this was a move that had to be done. I think the interim come in. Every time an interim coach comes in, you know that they do a little bit better. Everybody's on their best behavior. They seem to make improvements. But I think this is a team that's going to go out and get one of those offensive guys. I think a guy that would fit perfectly for them is a Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy, yeah, he may struggle in, deep into the playoffs, but the guy still was a Super Bowl winning coach. And yeah, he may not have been the right fit for the Dallas Cowboys, but I believe he's a guy who can at least establish a culture and at least get the Tennessee Titans back to winning ways, put Cam Ward in the favorable positions, help him flourish, and turn this team into at least a team that's winning 8 or 9 games that are competing to either just make or just miss the playoffs. Also, we had Fred Warner get a devastating ankle injury. I mean, that was one of the most disgusting injuries that you could see. And it looks like the 49ers just can't catch a break. You already have Brandon Ayuk, who's still out from last year. Ricky Purcell and Juwan Jennings has been in and out of the lineup. George Kittle's still on IR. He will be back soon. Brock Purdy's been out for multiple weeks. Nick Bosa is already on IR. And now you lose Fred Warner. So now you got your top 2 defensive players, in particular Fred Warner, who was the heart and soul of the team, the leader of that locker room. Now both those guys are out for the year. I know Robert Saleh is one of, if not the best defensive coordinator. He's definitely up there in the top 3. And he's been coaching up these guys like D. Winters and others who've been really playing really good football. So, he's going to coach up the rest of the team. But a team that's trying to go on a deep playoff run, yeah, I believe because of coaching and because some of the talent that they will get back over the next few weeks from the short-term IR and the short-term injuries, I think this is a team that could still win 10 games and make the playoffs. But without Fred Warner and without Nick Bosa, this team's not going to go to the second round of the playoffs or, definitely not an NFC championship game. And I think that that's where this team's aspirations were. Now with Fred Warner, given his age and his injury, it's going to be tough to see him come back from it. I do think he'll make a full recovery, but, man, that's a devastating injury. And he's going to be a guy who, even when he comes back a year from now, he may not be 100%. You may not see a Fred Warner playing at a Fred Warner standard until 2027. So what a devastating injury for that team and for that locker room. And the 49ers just can't seem to catch a break. Now let's recap everything that happened on the field in Week 6. We had the Atlanta Falcons, who beat the Buffalo Bills. That's now back-to-back losses for the Buffalo Bills, and now back-to-back games where their offense has struggled while their defense has struggled. Their defense has been one of the worst in the league. They have a lot of injuries now. You have pretty much your whole draft class. You got Maxwell Harrison on IR, Dorian Strong on IR, TJ Sanders on IR. Matt Milano has been out for the majority of the season. You just got Ed Oliver back. Trey White has been a shell of himself. So this team, Benford hasn't played that well. Russo hasn't played that well. So this is a team where even the guys who are in there aren't playing well, and then the other guys have injuries. So either your roster's hurt or they're not playing well. So they've been one of the worst defenses in football. And now, because your offense has been so great and Josh Allen's been the best player on the planet, they've been making and trying to mask and cover up how bad they've been defensively. And now the fact that their offense is starting to struggle, now their whole team is struggling. So I know Josh Allen had multiple turnovers, but there's nothing he can do. James Cook hasn't been able to have a James Cook game the last 2 weeks, so you're not getting anything on James Cook. The offensive line has been getting pressured a lot over the last 2 weeks. The receiver, Shakir, hasn't been playing that well. Keon Coleman, who started off the season really strong, hasn't been able to separate. They didn't have Dalton Kincaid, who's been their best offensive receiving weapon. He was in this game. So now you're not getting anything out of your passing game. Josh Allen can only do so much when he's getting pressured in his face. He can't get anything in the running game, and your receivers aren't separated, while also you're on the other opposite end. When he's sitting on the sideline, your defense is getting gashed by every single player. Let's look at this team and how they played all season. They should have lost to the Baltimore Ravens. If it wasn't for a Derrick Henry fumble, they should have lost that game, so they got lucky in that one. Yeah, you beat the New York Jets, but they're a winless team. They're the worst team in football, so you should beat them. They struggled against Miami. There was points in that game where Miami had the lead or looked like they could win that game. Then you struggled and were losing and had to come back in the second half to the New Orleans Saints, who's one of the poor teams in the NFL. Then you lost to the Patriots, and now you lost to the Falcons. So this is a team that, yeah, they're 4-2, but they're much worse than what the record says it is. And I feel like they have too many needs right now, and the team is too Josh Allen dependent for them to flourish this year. And it's very unfortunate because this was their window this year. Lamar Jackson's hurt. The Baltimore Ravens have a bad record. The Kansas City Chiefs were struggling at the beginning of the year. Now they're starting to look like the best team in football, but they're still trying to come back and make up for how bad they started in their record. So you had a chance to get the first seed. You have Joe Burrow, who's out for the year. So this was the year to get the number 1 seed for the Buffalo Bills, and it's going to fall and be ripped away from their hands because they just don't have the talent. And they got so many needs. They need a true number 1 wide receiver that can separate. You need a true number 1 corner. Those rookies on IR aren't going to be able to help you this year, even if they come back. You need another defensive tackle. Now, Ed Oliver's been really good, but he was out for most of the season. He only played week 1 in last game, and last game he wasn't that good. Deion Walker has been one of your bright spots on your team, but at the end of the day, he's a rookie. So this is a team that probably needs a corner. Well, not probably. They definitely need a corner. They definitely need a safety. Tyler Rapp is not a starting safety. He's more suited as a rotational safety that comes off the field comes onto the field in certain situations. Cole Bishop is a decent coverage linebacker, but he can't tackle, so you need a really good tackle and safety. So need a corner, need a safety. You need another defensive tackle, and you probably need another pass rush. Because outside of Joey Bosa, Russo hasn't been able to get to the quarterback. A.J. Espineta hasn't been able to get to the quarterback. Javon Solomon hasn't been that great, and Landon Jackson, the rookie, has been unplayable. So you pretty much need a player at every level of the defense. And with Matt Milano being out, Terrell Bernard being inconsistent, having his injuries and playing through injuries, you don't have a consistent linebacker. Now, Shaq Thompson, another bright spot, has played really well in absence. Dorian Williams has had his moments, but he can struggle as well. So this is a team that may need a player at every position on defense, and they spent their entire offseason on defense. Now, they will get some players back from suspension. They will get some players back from IR. But at the end of the day, this defense is not getting done. And I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to think it's a coach issue. Brian Babich is one of the worst defensive coordinators in football. We see that each and every week. He's got one of the worst grades. We saw that his play calls are not doing well. When you got players like Russo, Benford, and others, and Bernard, who played really well last year, now they're not playing so well. Maybe Brian Babich's coaching is the reason. Maybe teams are starting to figure him out. Now, he was decent last year, but the only reason why they were good was because you had the takeaways, and the takeaways made up for a lot of things they weren't doing good. They were still getting gashed in the run game, and they were still giving up big plays, but because of the turnovers they were forcing, it was kind of covering up how bad their defense really was. Now all your good defensive players are regressing. The players that they drafted aren't playing well except for one in Deion Walker. It's a coaching issue. And I'm also getting to the point where we got to start pointing fingers at Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott is a good coach that can establish a culture and make you a winning team. But he's not going to be a coach that gets you a Super Bowl. He can get you to the playoffs, but he's not going to be able to win you in the playoffs and get you to the Super Bowl. If it wasn't for Josh Allen, McDermott would have been fired years ago. Yeah, he made the playoffs the first year, but like I said, he can establish a culture, get you to consistently 9 or 10 wins. But Josh Allen's the engine that gets them to the 12, 13 win mark, gets them to the first, second round of the playoffs. And then after that, when you're in the playoffs against the best teams, the best quarterbacks, the best coaches, he's going to get shut down. And his defenses get gashed each and every year in the playoffs. That's why I don't fault Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is the best quarterback on the planet. I believe he's the second best quarterback to ever play the game. And the only reason why nobody else believes that is because McDermott told him back. If he would have better coaching, if he would have better defense, Josh Allen would be the one with 2 or 3 Super Bowls and not Pat Mahomes. But Pat Mahomes has Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo coaching the defense, and Josh Allen doesn't. And that's the difference. Josh Allen's the better player than Pat Mahomes, but Pat Mahomes is a very close second, and he's got the better team and the better coaching. And that's the difference in the playoffs. That's why when Josh Allen plays these playoff games, he puts up multiple touchdowns, 20 to 30 points a game. But how is he supposed to win when McDermott's defense is getting gashed for 30-plus points a game, and you run the ball over him, and also his defense always struggles on third down? I'm starting to think that, and I said this before, McDermott Allen reminds me of when you had John Elway and you had Dan Reeves. John Elway was a quarterback that got the multiple Super Bowls, but he kept coming up short. As soon as they fired the coach and brought in Mike Shanahan, Elway won back-to-back Super Bowls. And I feel like that's what's going to have to happen for Josh Allen to win a Super Bowl. He has a good coach, but not a great coach. And that's what you need to win in the playoffs. Look at McDermott. Look what all these other coaches, look at Sean McVay. Look at Andy Reid. Look what Jim Harbaugh's doing. Look what Sean Payton's doing. These are the coaches that you can win Super Bowls with, not Sean McDermott. So I believe that's what's holding Josh Allen back is the coaching. And we know a head coach quarterback combo has not won a Super Bowl together this far in their career. They don't win the Super Bowl in their first 5 or 6 years together. They don't ever win a Super Bowl after that. So the only way Josh Allen is going to win the Super Bowls is, unfortunately, they're going to have some tough love, and they're going to have to get rid of not only Bobby Babbage, but I believe they're going to have to get rid of McDermott. I believe that they're not going to do that. They might give McDermott another year or two. What I would do is at least get rid of Bobby Babbage, bring in another defensive coordinator, and if McDermott can't win again after coordinator after coordinator after coordinator, then you get rid of McDermott and you bring in a really smart offensive coach that could really help Josh Allen flourish. Josh Allen is the best player in football, but his coaching staff is consistently holding him back. And he can only play Superman and do so much. And next year, he'll be 30. So how much longer are you going to expect him to play like this? Yeah, quarterbacks playing to the prime of the 35. But the way Josh Allen's playing, he could only play like this 2 or 3 years. He's going to need to have some of the pressure taken off of him. And I believe McDermott's not that guy. Also, we had Kansas City, who now has established himself as probably the best team, who now looks like they're firing on all cylinders. They got one of the best defenses. They got some speed at wide receiver. They're going to get Rashee Rice back. They just beat the Detroit Lions. The Philadelphia Eagles continue to spiral downward. The New York Giants went out. Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo had a great game. Beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts had a bad game. They're still not able to connect with receivers, and they're still not able to get anything out the running game. Tampa Bay, with all the injuries they had, going up against a team who also had injuries in San Francisco, Baker Mayfield, who's the leader right now for MVP, put the team on his back without his top 4 receivers, without his top running back, without probably his second and third best offensive lineman, went out there, was running the ball, making crazy deep throws to Tej Johnson. And he's been unbelievable. It's the best we've ever seen from Mayfield. He's been improving each and every year in Tampa Bay. And now he's probably the best quarterback in football this season. And he's probably the leader for MVP. So he went out and beat the 49ers. We had the Seattle Seahawks, who bounced back, got a win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. We said the Jacksonville Jaguars, after having that emotional win to Kansas City, would have a step back. And finally, we had the Carolina Panthers, who won another game. And Bryce Young is showing the improvement he's made and why he is a franchise quarterback, connecting with Tectora McMillan, having one of the best running attacks with Rico Duetto, who in back-to-back games has over 200 scrimmage yards, getting a win over the Dallas Cowboys. Now, yeah, the Dallas Cowboys have been one of the worst defenses in the league, and Dak Prescott's been playing like a top 10 quarterback, but his defense is constantly killing him. Him and George Pickens and Javonte Williams have been making plays, but it hasn't been enough to mask the defensive woes for the Dallas Cowboys. We got to give all credit to the Carolina Panthers. This is back-to-back wins for them. And we know the Carolina Panthers this year, when they've been the home team, they've been really, really well. And I think Bryce Young, who's been playing for a really bad organization, has proven that he is a franchise quarterback. You just got to give him time, and you got to give him help. Now we're going to move on to Week 7 of the NFL. And we're going to start off with our Thursday Night Football matchup. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are a 5.5-point favorite on the road to the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Steelers have been an awesome story this year. Their defense has been looking awesome. Nick Herbert has really took the next step. He looks like an elite pass rusher to go along with T.J. Watt, who you know is always a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Their linebackers have been unbelievable. Patrick Queen is looking like the Patrick Queen we saw in the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey has been one of the top shutdown corners, like he's been pretty much almost his whole career. Aaron Rodgers has been managing the game well by also making great plays. I think each and every week he's starting to go from that game manager to a game winner. You saw those tight window throws he was making all game last week against the Browns. And the Browns, yeah, they're a bad team, but they got a good defense. And Aaron Rodgers was dicing them up. Metcalf has been unbelievable for them. He's starting to emerge. Now, I don't like the receiving core as a whole, but I think Aaron Rodgers with Metcalf has been enough. And their offensive line looked really, really improved against the Cleveland Browns, an offensive line that has struggled. Now, if you give Aaron Rodgers protection with Metcalf getting open the way he has, with some of those other receivers who've been breaking out to help Rodgers, and Rodgers looking like he has, this team's going to be tough to beat on both sides of the ball. Now they're going up against the Cincinnati Bengals, who did make a quarterback change, and I think Joe Flacco is a much better quarterback than Jake Browning. They played pretty competitive with the Green Bay Packers, plus they're the home team. Flacco's the guy who will be able to get to the ball. Two guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Yeah, he may turn the ball over as well, but he's at least going to be a guy who's going to take chances. Jake Browning, for the most part, can't get the ball to those guys and turns the ball over. So you get no positive. At least with Joe Flacco, you get the negative, but you also get the positive plays as well. I believe that Thursday Night Football is always tough to predict. For some reason, these divisional Thursday Night Football games seem to be very much closer than what we think. So I think because of that, because Joe Flacco can get the ball to those guys, and they're the home team, I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers, no cover in that one. They'll figure out a way to win. Their defense will make enough plays, get a couple turnovers. Aaron Rodgers will definitely make enough plays too. And I think that they'll win the game, but 5.5 points is a lot to give up on the road in a Thursday night divisional matchup. So give me the Pittsburgh Steelers to win and no cover. Now we got probably the best international game so far this season. We got the Los Angeles Rams, who are a 2.5-point favorite, versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars have been one of the best defenses in football. Their pass rush has been unbelievable. They're getting great play out of their defensive tackles with Hamilton and Armstead. They got probably the best inside linebacker in football this year with Devin Lloyd. Their cornerbacks, Jordan Lewis, has been one of the top slot corners in football. But their LA Rams are just way too good. The LA Rams this year, I think, have the best defensive line in football. Jared Verse has been one of the top 5 edge rushers. Brian Young is top 5 in sacks. The combination of those two is unbelievable. You got Fisk, you got Poona Ford, you got Kobe Turner in the middle. Nate Landman's been a top 10 inside linebacker. Their corners and safeties are young, but they've been very hungry and been making a lot of plays this season. So I like their team. Puka Nacua being hurt definitely hurts his team. He's either going to not play or play and not be 100%. And we saw how much that this hurt this Rams team a week ago against the Baltimore Ravens. But when you have Matthew Stafford, who's one of the most experienced quarterbacks in the NFL, you got Kyron Williams. They have a good offensive line. And even without Puka Nacua, you got Davante Adams, who's the number 1 receiver and would be the best receiver for probably 75 to 80% of this league. He's still a top 10, top 15 receiver, and he's your number 2 guy. So I believe that will be enough to get the job done. Yeah, these international games, you got a lot of travel. And the Jacksonville Jaguars play these international games more than anybody, so they're kind of like the home team in a way. So, but I think the point spread being as low it is, I believe Matthew Stafford and Davante Adams will be enough to get over. Plus, I think you got 2 teams with 2 great defenses, so I can see this being a low-scoring game. I think the defense of the Rams will force Trevor Lawrence into some turnovers. They'll pressure him a lot. He'll scramble and make some bad mistakes. So I think that the Rams defense will make more plays slightly than the Rams defense. And I believe offensively, Matthew Stafford and Davante Adams will make more plays than Trevor Lawrence, ETN, and Brian Thomas Jr. So give me the Los Angeles Rams to win and cover in that one. Now we got the New Orleans Saints, who's been playing, much better than what their record and what their talent shows. They're on the road to the Chicago Bears. The Bears are a 4.5-point favorite. I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears to win and cover in that one. Yeah, they had some luck go their way to win that game against the Washington Commanders, but Caleb Williams has been playing better each and every week. The Ben Johnson Simpson's really starting to get indebted into his mind. He's starting to know the playbook a little bit better. DeAndre Swift is finally looking great. We know Ben Johnson loves to have the running game and set up play action. Rome Odunze has established himself as the number 1 receiver for this team. Obviously, Luther Burden, the rookie, has been making a couple plays, doing some explosive plays, run after the catch, screens. I love Luther Burden. Yeah, they could get more. There's more to be desired from Colston Loveland, the rookie tight end, and DJ Moore. But the offense is getting better each and every week. Defensively, they're starting to get healthier in the secondary, and I believe that they'll be able to force Spencer Rattler into some turnovers. So I think the Bears are starting to flourish. It's starting to trend upward. So give me the Chicago Bears to win and cover. Now we got the Miami Dolphins going on the road to the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are a 2.5-point favorite. I know the Miami Dolphins is starting to lose the locker room. You got Tua calling out other players. Mike McDaniel seemed to lost the locker room. He seems to be the next coach that's going to be getting fired soon. But at the end of the day, you still got Jalen Waddle. You still got Devon Achane, who's getting touchdown after touchdown. What this guy could do from the scrimmage, whether it's running through the tackles, whether if it's catching plays, running in the goal line situations, this guy is unbelievable. Now Miami Dolphins don't have a great offensive line, but Tua's been able to get the ball out quick. Jalen Waddle, he had a drop that turned into a turnover, but Miami's played really competitive. They should have won that game against the Chargers. I don't love Miami's defense. I think Rasul Douglas and those linebackers have played really well with Brooks and Dobson, but they still need to get more out of their defense. I think that their defense has played better than what we thought, but at the end of the day, their defense hasn't been great. And what's been happening is their defense will have moments where they'll play good, and then there's been moments in each game where they'll be very, very poor. So they haven't been able to have a consistent game for 60 minutes. But I do believe that they're still a better team than the Browns. And I believe guys like Rasul Douglas, guys like Bradley Chubb, and guys like Phillips, Zach Seiler, Dobson, and Brooks will beat up Jack Jones. Will make enough plays against the rookie quarterback Dylan Gabriel. And yeah, the Browns have a good defense and will cause Tua some issues because they don't have a good line. So you know Myles Garrett, Alex Wright, Carson Schwarzenegger is going to make plays on them. You still got Denzel Ward, who's probably going to be matched up on Jalen Waddle, but they're also going to be able to attack the Browns with Darren Waller. So I believe that will be the difference. I think this will be a low-scoring defensive game, but I believe Miami will force Dillon Gabriel into some turnovers, and I believe Tua will make a play here and there to win this game and coming off of that emotional loss to the Los Angeles Chargers. So give me the Miami Dolphins to win an upset there. Now we got the New England Patriots, who are a 7.5-point favorite, going on the road to the Tennessee Titans. Now the Patriots is another team who's trending upwards. They now took the lead in the AFC East. Drake May is looking like the Drake May we thought. I said coming in the draft, he could beat Josh Allen type, and he literally is. The guy makes these off-platform throws. Now you see guys like Demario Douglas and Stephon Diggs flourishing. Dillon Gabriel can help you in the running game. Now Trayvon Henderson is starting to become a bigger player on this offense, which he should have been. He's the most talented running back. He should have been getting more playing time. Obviously, this is a team that relies on tight ends, so Hunter Henry's been playing really well. The offensive line, led by rookie Will Campbell, hasn't been giving up much pressure, so Drake May's been able to be kept clean. The defensively, Christian Gonzalez is healthy, so he shuts down any receiver he goes up against. Milton Williams causing interior pressure on any offensive line he goes up against. That'll be enough to win the game. But surprisingly, I'm going to go with the New England Patriots no cover here. And the reason being is because whenever there's a team that fires a coach and the interim coach comes in, they play really well in that first game. It's almost like when a team makes a quarterback change. They surprise you a lot because you don't know what their game plans are. You don't know how they're going to attack you. Plus, they're the home team. And usually when a team makes a coaching change, everybody seems to come in the next week knowing like, hey, like, we don't know if our drivers are safe. Are we going to be next? Are we going to be the ones that are going to get cut or traded as the season goes on? So their team's going to be highly motivated. And we know defensively, Tennessee Titans got one of the biggest defensive lines. Jeffrey Simmons has probably been the best defensive tackle. I believe even with the Patriots' improved offensive lines, he's going to create havoc on Drake May. They got some decent good corners. And I believe that Cam Ward offensively will keep the ball clean and not turn the ball over. Yeah, they won't have the explosive plays or get a lot of touchdowns, but I believe that they'll keep the ball clean and maybe settle for some field goals. So I do think the Patriots had a much better team. They will win the game, but I'm going to go surprisingly New England Patriots no cover. Now, this is a game that would be real easy to pick if it wasn't for the point spread being high. We got the Las Vegas Raiders going on the road to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs now, who are starting to flourish, and now they're going to get Rashee Rice back. I think they'll bring them along slowly. They're a 12.5-point favorite. They're the best team in football right now. They got so much speed at wide receiver. Pacheco's finally starting to emerge. You got Hollywood Brown, Worthy, Thornton, all 4-2 guys, with Rashee Rice, with Travis Kelce, Juju Smith-Schuster, Brashard Smith, the rookie running back's been great. Their offensive line's been really unbelievable. You already know they had good interior blocking, but now they got the tackles now to help. So now they got a complete offensive line. Defensively, you know where you're going to get. McDuffie's one of the top corners. You got Nick Bowen, one of the top linebackers. Leo Chanel and Drew Tranquil gives them one of the best linebacking cores in the National Football League. Karlaftis doesn't get many sacks, but he creates havoc and gets a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Chris Jones, obviously they don't have another good defensive tackle really to rely on, but Chris Jones takes so much space and takes double or triple teams in the middle that opens it up for everybody else. So obviously I think the Kansas City Chiefs will win against the Raiders team who looked really good last week, but that was against the Tennessee Titans. The Raiders aren't a great football team overall, but I believe it being a division game and Geno Smith and Ashton Jeanty looking a little bit better, we shall see if Brock Bowers can play, but even if not, Mayer has been making good plays for this team. You still got Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers. Max Crosby seems to always play good against the Chiefs. I still think that they'll force Geno Smith and the turnovers, who he's been a turnover machine this year. I think Ashton Jeanty, they'll be trying to key on him, but I think he'll have maybe a touchdown or two. That's too many points. I never take a 12.5-point spread no matter who the teams are. So because of that, if this was 9.5 to 10.5, I would take the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs win this game by 10. But I think that's just way too many points in a divisional matchup. So give me the Kansas City Chiefs no cover. Now we got the Philadelphia Eagles, who are trying to rebound after back-to-back losses. They're a 1.5-point favorite going on the road to the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles to win and cover that one. The point spread's way too is really low. So if you pick Eagles to win, you're not going to see Eagles no cover because the point spread's 1.5. So most likely they cover that one. And I think the Vikings, who have a good defense, offensively, they can struggle. I think that, yeah, Jordan Mason's played pretty well in the absence of Aaron Jones, but Carson Wentz is susceptible to turnovers. And I believe how motivated this team's going to be after the performance they put up against Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo, they're going to be highly motivated to shut down the run game. I think they're going to limit Jordan Mason. They're going to force Carson Wentz into turnovers, and I believe that Jalen Hurts has his coming out party. This could be kind of a low-scoring game because the Vikings do have a good defense, but I believe the Eagles will make those adjustments. They'll be highly motivated. They're not going to drop 3 games in a row. Yeah, we know Isaiah Rodgers has been a really good corner for the Vikings. They got some other good players that have been making plays. But I think I expect a huge game out of Saquon Barkley. I think Saquon Barkley is going to be able to run on this defense. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be able to set up play action and get the ball to guys like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. He knows the slack that he took last week with that performance. And we know Jalen Hurts is a guy who, when things go wrong, he keeps his head down, he doesn't complain, and he makes the improvements that are needed to be made. So I expect a huge comeback game from them. So I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles to win and cover in that one. Now we got the Carolina Panthers, who are a 1.5-point favorite. Surprisingly, they went out the Panthers a 1.5-point favorite, but rightfully so with the way they play. They're finally 500 for the first time in a while. They're 3-3, but they're going on the road to the winless Jets, who are the only team in the NFL who does not have a win. The Jets defensively has still been great. I'm actually going to go with the upset here. I'm going to go with the New York Jets to finally get their first win, get on the board, and beat the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers are a night and day difference from when they play on the road to when they play at home. If they're the home team, I would be picking them, but they're on the road, and we know on the road, Bryce Young and the offense doesn't play that good. They still got one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and that's a bad recipe for a New York Jets team because the New York Jets team has a good defense but a terrible offense. So their defense with Quinnen Williams, with Juwan Briggs, with Will McDonald, with Sauce Gardner. I think Sauce Gardner is going to be matched up with Tectora McMillan with the size and length that both those guys have. That's going to be an awesome matchup to watch. But I believe the New York Jets defense is going to have another good performance. You saw what they did last week against Bo Nix, giving them tough issues and giving them everything they can handle and play good enough for the Jets team to win. But now you look at a Panthers team who I think don't have the defense. Yeah, they got Derek Brown, who's been one of the top defensive tackles. Nick Sorton, the rookie edge rusher, has been improving. They just don't have a great defense. They're probably one of the 10 worst defenses. And I don't believe that their defense that's going to be able to cause Justin Fields fits. Garrett Wilson's probably going to be out in this game. But I expect Breece Hall to be able to run all over them. And I expect the New York Jets to be able to limit Rico Dweddle and their running game. So I think the New York Jets are going to win this game. They're going to be able to shut down and limit the Carolina Panthers offense. And I believe the Carolina Panthers defense won't be able to cause Justin Fields issues. And I think Justin Fields will be able to run all over them, and they'll be able to hand the ball off to Breece Hall as well. So give me the New York Jets to win that one in an upset. We got the New York Giants going on the road to the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos are a 7.5-point favorite. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos no cover. I believe that the New York Giants have a really great pass rush. We know that their defense is one of the better defenses. It's their offense that's been struggling, but ever since that Jackson Dart became the quarterback, Cam Scatterboo's become the true number one running back there. Their offense has been getting plays. So I believe that this will be a back-and-forth, low-scoring game. The Giants will be able to make some plays against Bo Nix in the offense to keep it close. Denver's still going to win the game. They got the best defense in the league. As good as the Giants are, they're not good as the Broncos. They got 2 Defensive Player of the Year candidates. Nick Bonitto's probably the leader for Defensive Player of the Year, with him leading the league in sacks. You got Cooper, who's the unbelievable sack artist as well. On the other side, you got Zach Allen and Franklin Myers in the middle of that defensive line. So against a poor Giants offensive line, they're going to be able to cause Jackson Dart problems. They'll probably be able to shut down, for the most part, Cam Scatterboo, force Jackson Dart into some turnovers. And on the flip side, the Giants defense will make some plays, but I believe that Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, R.J. Harvey, and J.K. Dobbins and Bo Nix will make more plays. So the Broncos got the better defense, and I believe right now they got the better offense. Plus, they're going to come off that performance where their offense did not play good against the New York Jets. So I expect the Broncos to win, but 7.5 points is a lot. If this was 6.5 or anything under, I would pick the Broncos to cover. But 7.5 is a lot to a Giants team who's got a good defense. Their offense is improving. You know Brian Daboll's going to coach that team well. So give me the Denver Broncos to win no cover. Now we got 2 of the top teams, and what was the most surprise team this year? We got the Indianapolis Colts going on the road to the Los Angeles Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers are a 1.5-point favorite. You got Daniel Jones and this offense, who's been one of the top offenses in football. Jonathan Taylor has been a top 3 running back. We know Daniel Jones has the wide receivers, has the tight ends. Tyler Warren is in the conversation for best tight end in football this year as a rookie. You got a plethora of receivers like Josh Dobbs. I'm sorry, like Josh Downs, like Alex Pierce, like Michael Pittman Jr. So this team just has everything they want offensively. I know that they have a good pass rush. Latu Olatu has been a huge breakout start for them. He's looking like that first round pick that they thought they were getting a couple years ago. He's unbelievable. He is one of the top graded pass rushers according to Pro Football Focus. He can stop the run. He gets a lot of quarterback pressures. And against the Chargers team that has lost their top 3 tackles, they lost Rashawn Slater, they lost Joe Alt, they lost Trey Pipkins. So now they're down to their 4th and 5th tackles that are on this team. They also don't have Omar Hampton as well to take the pressure off. But I think Ladd McConkey now has finally started to break out over the last couple weeks. He started the season off slow. He's starting to play really well. You still got Keenan Allen. You still got Quentin Johnson. So I can see this game going back and forth with the offenses. And I believe if the Chargers have them in the home field, knowing that the Chargers nearly lost to Miami, lost to the Commanders, and lost to the Giants, Jim Harbaugh is going to have this team motivated. And I believe the Indianapolis Colts are due for a loss. The Chargers still have a great defense. Tulo has been one of the top quarterback pressures in the National Football League. They have a tremendous secondary led by Derwin James and Torrance Still. I believe that this will be a game where Daniel Jones had a turnover too, and that will be a difference. I think Justin Herbert won't have that turnover, and I believe that it's the up-down syndrome. I think the Colts are due for a loss, and I think the Chargers, being the home team, are due for a win. So give me the Los Angeles Chargers to win and cover in that one. Now we got the Washington Commanders, who are a 1.5-point favorite going on the road to the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott's been, an MVP candidate, but the reason why he's not being talked about as an MVP candidate is because their defense has been so bad, and that's why their record hasn't been so good. So I can see this game being kind of a shootout, but I think since the Cowboys don't have a great defense, if they weren't able to make plays and shut down Bryce Young, how are they going to be able to make plays and shut down the Washington Commanders? A Washington Commanders team who has Jaden Daniels, who's still a better quarterback than Bryce Young. They got a great rookie running back. Luke McCaffrey's really emerged. Lane has really emerged as well. You still got Deebo Samuel. Yeah, McLaurin's been the guy who's been hurt, but you still got guys who have been emerging. They got a rookie who's been emerging in Lane. Luke McCaffrey's emerging now for this team, and you still got Deebo Samuel. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Mike Sanders still has been a really good corner for them. I think Dorrance Armstrong and Jacob Martin has given this team a good pass rush as well. Now, obviously, Lattimore, the corner, has been a shell of himself. He's been giving up plays. Doesn't look like that elite corner that they thought they were getting when they traded for him last year. But still, their defense is still better. I think offensively, it's apples and oranges. The Cowboys' offense is probably just as good as them. With the way Javonte Williams has played, he's looking like the guy we saw in North Carolina last year. He's fully recovered from his injury. George Pickens has really emerged as a true number 1 receiver. He's finally broken out as the receiver we thought. We knew he was the number 1 last year in Pittsburgh. Now he's got a quarterback like Dak Prescott. Jake Ferguson, like we said about Tyler Warren, has probably been in the conversation for the best tight end. He's probably the second or third best tight end in football. So they got Ferguson. They got Turpin. They got a decent amount of good receivers in with without CeeDee Lamb. But when your defense is that bad, yeah, James Houston and Fowler's been trying to get a pass rush, but their corners have been just getting gashed each and every game. That's not going to be enough. So I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders to win and cover in that one. And then the last game before we get to our final primetime games, we got the Green Bay Packers, who are a 6.5-point favorite, going on the road to the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, the Cardinals played competitive last week with the Indianapolis Colts, but they just have way too many injuries. Yeah, Will Johnson has been one of the top corners as a rookie for their defense, but their secondary has been gashed for injuries with Garrett Williams being hurt. Josh Sweat's been able to get this team a good pass rush, but defensively, they got injuries in the back end. Offensively, they don't have their top 2 running backs, with James Conner being out for the year, Trey Benson being on short-term IR, and Kyler Murray was out. Jacoby Brissett is a good backup, but he can only do so much. Even with Kyler Murray, this is a defense in the Packers who is going to be able to rush you, and they're going to be able to shut down the run. Their corners have been hit or miss. Some games have been good. They look great against the Lions. They didn't look good against the Cowboys, but the Cowboys' offense has been doing really well and getting points and passing the ball on every defense. So maybe it just goes to show you more about what the Dallas Cowboys are offensively than what the Green Bay Packers are defensively. The Green Bay Packers did have a close game last week, which you wouldn't want to see against the Bengals. But I believe that the Packers are due for that shutdown, dominant win on both sides of the ball. I expect Micah Parsons to play well, even with Kyler Murray. If he's in there, if he could get some sort of running dual threat ability, I believe Micah Parsons takes that out the game. Rashawn Gary's been one of the top sack artists as well. So this is a team that's got way too much talent. And I know Marvin Harrison Jr. has been making plays, but I believe that this will be a game where their secondary comes to play. Jordan Love has been one of the most consistent quarterbacks. And I believe with those injuries, they'll be able to throw the ball away from Will Johnson and be able to complete plays. So I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers to win and cover. Now we got the Atlanta Falcons going on the road to the 49ers. The 49ers are a 2.5-point favorite. I'm going to go with the 49ers. The Falcons are coming off that emotional win last week to the Buffalo Bills where everything went their way. I think they're due for a downfall. Not a downfall because I still think they're a good team, but due for a letdown the week after. We saw what happened last week with the Jacksonville Jaguars after they beat the Chiefs, struggled against the Seahawks. I can see the Falcons being that this week. And the 49ers are going to be highly motivated because now they're going to get some players back. They're going to hopefully get some of their receivers back. Purcell has a good chance to play. Brock Purdy has a good chance to play. Even if not, I think the coaching staff is going to do a great job coaching this team. Plus, they're the home team. So I expect whether it's Mac Jones or Brock Purdy, I expect them to have a big game. I don't think the Falcons are going to have an answer for Christian McCaffrey, who's been a do-it-all. I don't know if it's sustainable, but they're giving this guy so many carries and so many catches that he's pretty much their top receiver and their top running back all in one. So I don't know if it's sustainable, but it will be sustainable for this game, and I expect their offense to be better. Now they'll have a week to game plan without having Fred Warner. I think D. Winters has been a really good linebacker for them. They got some other young guys on their defense who've been emerging in the pass rush and the defensive line department. I think they'll be able to make enough plays against Michael Penix Jr. and Drake London and those guys. And I also believe defensively, the Falcons, whose defense looked great last week, I believe that the 49ers will come up with a game plan to make enough plays. So give me the 49ers to win and cover in that one. Now we got probably the best game of the week. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road to the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are a 5.5-point favorite. This is a really tough game to predict. You've got teams with multiple injuries. The Lions right now are completely gashed at corner. They're without right now probably 3 of their top 4 corners. Also, Kirby Joseph is doing injuries. Brian Branch is looking at a suspension that he's trying to appeal. If those guys are out, I don't see how they're going to be able to stop them. But then on the flip side, look at the Buccaneers team, who has their top 4 receivers hurt and their top running back being hurt. Plus the Lions coming off of that loss to the Chiefs. I don't see them dropping back-to-back games. And I also don't see the Buccaneers being able to consistently win against great teams with all the injuries. Baker Mayfield's the MVP, but no player could do that each and every week. So I think this will be a close game because of the injuries to both sides of the ball. They'll kind of negate each other. But because the Lions are the home team, I'm going to go with the Lions to win. But I think Jared Goff, who doesn't play as well on the road, he's at home. He does have the home field advantage now, so you'll get a better Jared Goff. He's still got St. Brown. He's still got other players like Jamison Williams. He still got that great running game. The Buccaneers secondary has looked really well with Tyree Smith, the rookie Jacob Parrish. Jamal Dean was the defensive player of the week last year. Defensive player of the week last week. So I believe that this game will go back and forth, but I believe that the Detroit Lions win, but the Detroit Lions no cover. Now we got the Houston Texans going on the road to the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks are a 3.5-point favorite. I can see this being a defensive game. Both these defenses are great. Seattle has one of the best group of defensive backs in the NFL. They got a plethora of safeties. Their rookie, Nick Emmanwori, really emerged last week. You still got now Love, who should be back from injury soon. You got Kobe Bryant. You got Devin Witherspoon and others in the defensive back. Then their edge rushers and their defensive tackle. Byron Murphy has really taken the next step. He's been one of the top interior defensive tackle pass rushers in the NFL. He's one of the top 3 defensive tackles in sacks. Then you look at their pass rush with Nwosu, Boy Mafe, Derek Hall, and DeMarcus Lawrence. On offensively, Seattle, when they have Kenneth Walker, who's the highest graded running back according to Football Focus. Sam Darnold's one of the highest graded quarterbacks. He's the best deep ball thrower this year. Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's been probably, along with Bijan Robinson, the top 2 offensive player of the year candidates. Jackson Smith-Njigba has emerged now as one of the best receivers and has probably been the best receiver now with the Puka Nacua injury, probably the best receiver in football right now. That would be way too much, plus to get a home field advantage. I believe that the difference in this game is you got 2 good defenses. What we just said about Seattle's defense, we can say the same thing about the Texans defense. The defensive tackle was a weakness last year, is now a strength with how well Tim Settle and Rankins has played. You still got the best pass rushing duo in the league with Will Anderson Jr. and Hunter. You got good linebackers. Derek Stingley Jr., you can't throw against them at all. Jalen Petrie is an unbelievable player as well back there. So this would be a low-scoring defensive game. But I don't trust the Texans' offense. They got still a weak offensive line. They don't have a great running attack. And they got a lot of young receivers they rely on opposite Nico Collins. Dalton Schultz is a decent tight end, but C.J. Stroud can only do so much when he doesn't have a running game. He doesn't have a good offensive line and only one receiver that you can really rely on. Where on the flip side, you look at Seattle's offense, you got Kenneth Walker. You got Sam Darnold. You got a good tight end group. You got Jackson Smith-Njigba. You got Cooper Kupp. You got Torrey Holton, who is one of the top 5 rookie receivers in the NFL. That's just going to be way too much. Plus, they have the home field advantage, and we know the 12th man is great in Seattle. So give me the Seattle Seahawks to win and cover in that one, and then continue to emerge as one of the top teams in the NFC. So that's going to do it for this week. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us across all social medias on Twitter at Balester555, at TikTok and Instagram at Anthony Balester. Make sure that you share this video with anybody that you know that likes football. And also make sure you like this video. We do a college football show and we do an NFL show each and every week, typically on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so you're not going to want to miss it. So that's going to do it for this episode. We'll be back next week as well to break down all these great games, everything that happens in Week 7, while also previewing everything that come up in Week 8. So definitely make sure we're going to be breaking down and previewing each and every game, each and every week, so you're not going to want to miss it. Make sure you guys enjoy the football this weekend. We'll catch you guys next week.